Hi everyone, I'm Noel Marshall, and welcome to the new vlog cast from the Peace Pentagon Hub. The Peace Pentagon is a conference and training center for progressive programs as well as sacred activism. The Peace Pentagon is located in Independence, Virginia, and our hub vlogs focus on sectors of society where everyday synergistic solutions are emerging to help us build the new world we all know is possible. Well, I want to tell you this is the first vlog I've done, but I am just so thrilled to have the quality of participant that I have here today. So today we're going to hear from David Cobb, who is an American attorney, a liberal political activist, campaign manager, and politician. And he also is a co-founder of an organization that Bob and I support very much called Move to Amend. David has also, in 2004, he ran as a Green Party presidential candidate. And this last time around, he is, and probably still is, the co-founder, the campaign manager for Jill Stein in her presidential run in 2016. Now, as David is an activist, that means that there's no grass that grows under his feet. And so when we connected with David this time, we found about a new initiative called greenwayforward.org. So David, I'm so delighted to welcome you here to the Peace Pentagon vlog. And I would like you, we have about 10 minutes, I would love for you to be able to tell us about a Green Way Forward, what its goal is, what it's bringing to the planet, how people can get involved. And I know you're one of the most articulate spokespeople I've ever heard, so I'm just going to turn it over to you, David. Welcome.
Well, thank you, Noel. That's such a very kind introduction, and I'm also quite honored to reconnect with you and Bob, and especially eager to learn more about and connect with and work with the Pentagon Peace Hub. So let me share with your viewers the concept of a Green Way Forward. A Green Way Forward is a weekly live stream broadcast and podcast and interview format program where we look at issues facing us specifically through the perspective and lens of the 4 pillars of the International Green Party movement. Those 4 pillars are peace, justice, democracy, and ecology. And remember that those pillars of the International Green Party movement really are the core set of values that make up the interconnected ideology of what the Green Party represents. And with your permission, I'd like to just take a moment to describe each one and how they interconnect and why that's so important. I always like to start with ecology. Because for Greens, ecology is not merely environmentalism. Ecology is the core understanding, not a belief, but a genuine understanding and acknowledgement of the reality that all of life on planet Earth is interconnected. Life itself is an interconnected web, and anything that we do to that web, we will ultimately do to ourselves. And the environment is not something separate or out there, and frankly, human beings are not above the rest of life. We are actually part of this sacred dance of life. And as Greens, we are trying to help people come to terms with the truth, the reality that between the global climate crisis, between human overpopulation, between industrial society, we are literally destroying Mother Earth faster than she can replenish herself. And whether you come at that reality from a cold, calculated science, or you come at it from a eco-spiritual feminist worldview, you still end up at the same place. Or whether you come at it from both of those perspectives, the reality is that we cannot continue to exist on planet Earth the way that we have been. The second pillar of the International Green Party movement is a commitment to social justice. And in the U.S., we Greens say social and racial justice to really center white supremacy within the concept of social justice. But remember, social justice just means that things ought to be fair, right? And we know, Noel, that things are not fair. In fact, We know that our social institutions are fundamentally unfair. We know that our social institutions are fundamentally racist, sexist, and class oppressive. So we say that our institutions need to be restructured, not just according to the need for an ecological understanding, but also for a social justice understanding. The third pillar of the International Green Party movement is a commitment to genuine democracy. And democracy, of course, comes from the Attic Greek, and demos means the people, kratia means rule. So literally democracy means the people rule or the people have the power. And what I know, what you know, and I suspect all of the viewers of this vlog know, we the people are not ruling in the United States. We the people are being ruled by a small oligarchy, not even a 1%, but a 1/2 of 1%, a wealthy elite who are in complete control of all the social economic institutions. And what we as the Green Party says, any decision that affects your life, you ought to have an opportunity to help to shape that decision. Doesn't mean that everybody gets to win, because there's going to be disagreements, but we ought to create structures and systems and processes by which ordinary people collectivize and come together to be able to make those decisions. And those three pillars of ecology, social justice, and grassroots democracy, what we know is those are straight up revolution, right? Like there is no way to take the corporate capitalist white supremacist patriarchal society that we live in and get to that society without restructuring our social, political, and economic institutions, which leads me to the fourth pillar of the International Green Party movement, which is an absolutely unequivocal commitment to peace, which is to say the Green Party throughout the world makes a commitment that we will not engage in violence as an affirmative political tool. Now, I do want to be clear, Noel, you do not have to be a pacifist to be a Green Party supporter or member, right? We do believe in the defense of ourselves and the defense of others, but we don't believe that you should use violence as an affirmative political tool to engage revolution for two reasons. One, because we want to live in a peaceful world and you can't get there violently. You know, some people who say, oh, but the ends justify the means, I think is absolutely incorrect, because the means are the ends in the making. And if you want to be at a peaceful place, you need to conduct yourself peacefully in order to get there. So the second reason that I and the Green Party are committed to peace is because we know that the current state apparatus has access to such levels of violence and instruments of surveillance and weaponry that the days of the violent revolution we think are over. So we need to change how people think, change how people act, and then we'll be able to create that world. So I know I've said a lot, but on a Green Way Forward, every conversation we have, and we have these conversations weekly, is an effort to take some issue and then to put the lens of the Green Party, peace, justice, democracy, and ecology, and deconstruct that issue, deconstruct that narrative, and imagine how to go forward under that Green Party philosophy.
That's excellent, David. I not had that so clearly expressed to me before about the four pillars of the Green Party. I've just thought, well, I think they do good things, but you know, I've kind of been in that wishy-washy state. You know, can they really get politicians in there when we have this kind of condition? And you know, I think I'm just going to have to closer to my values, because what you articulated are the values that I espouse personally. And it's so amazing here that you are my first guest, and that one of your pillars is peace. And that is something that we'll be talking about more, because I think you're on the West Coast now, we're on the East Coast, but I think there's going to be some great synergy between our organizations, how we can lift each other up with our
I think so. And
you know, our working world.
Noel, I also want to actually, because I come across a lot of people, who express what you did, which is, I love the principles and values of the Green Party. Your ideology matches completely with my worldview, but I can't join the Green Party or vote for the Green Party because Republicans are so bad, and I have to hold my nose and cast ballots for corporate Democrats because at least they're not as bad as Republicans. And I want to take a moment to remind you and your viewers that the only way to get to the world that we want, see, I'm not a Green because of idealism. I'm a Green Party member because of my cold, calculated analysis of how power operates and how social change operates. I think that social change in the United States of America is actually, broadly speaking, a very simple two-step process. Now, it's easy to describe, but very hard to implement. But those two ideas are, one, you need a broad, deep social movement. You need people who are doing work in pool halls and bowling alleys and barber shops and coffee shops and just everywhere where people live, work, and play, beginning to talk differently, think deeply, act differently. So a social movement is absolutely a critical component. But the second thing that you have to have is an electoral expression of that social movement. You need a political party that is running candidates for office at the local, state, and national level on the program and ideology of that party. And with that broadly in mind, Noel, I want to now give you and your viewers a short list of all of the things that it took so-called third parties, or what I'd call an alternative political party, to champion at the ballot box. And think about this list as I go through. The abolition of slavery, women getting the right to vote, the creation of the Social Security Administration, unemployment insurance, workers' compensation laws, pure food and drug laws, ending child labor, the direct election of the United States Senate, the 40-hour work week, the entire fabric of worker protection laws that we currently enjoy. Noel, the entire fabric of what we today would consider the bare damned minimum for a just and compassionate society. That entire fabric was woven together, thread by thread, issue by issue, by so-called third-party activists. Third-party activists who, when they began their work, were called at best naive and unrealistic, who when they began their work were called dangerous and un-American, and people who were called spoilers. So today, if you want to live in a world that will actually end war as foreign policy, if you want to live in a world, not just talk about it, but actually live in that world, live in a world that will dismantle the U.S. military bases all across this world, if you want to dismantle the U.S. empire, if you want to dismantle the International Monetary Fund and the World Bank and the Federal Reserve and create a democratic monetary system, if you want to live in a world that will abolish the outrageous legal doctrine that corporations have constitutional rights or that money is speech, if you want to have full publicly funded elections, if you want to transition away from coal and oil to alternative sustainable energy, see, if you want to actually succeed, I submit to you, you've got to be willing to vote for those candidates. So don't waste your vote on neoliberal corporate Democrats or right-wing neo-fascist Republicans. Don't waste your vote. Invest your vote in the movement that you actually want to be part of.
Thank you so much for that concise, articulate expression. And you certainly have moved me. You know, I'm not saying that I have been a supporter. You know, I actually just spent a lot of time researching and recently went to a summit that looked at different ways to reform our electorate and democracy. And it was very, I think it was called Unrig the System, because our system is rigged. And I was very inspired by all the 1,500 people there that were solution bringers. And I
want to say this, Noel, the Unrig the System was a perfect example. 1,500 people who had concrete solutions that would begin to fix our, and again, I like it. It's not a broken democracy, it's fixed, right? Like that's the problem. The system is working exactly as it's designed to work. to allow the wealthy and powerful to control everything. But here's the point. Those solutions are not being implemented because there is not a mass movement demanding them and a political party actually demanding it. And I know that some people don't like to hear it, but it's really important to recognize that I believe that principled liberals and progressives have been lied to and sold out by the ruling elite of the Democratic Party because they are taking their money and their marching orders from big corporations, Wall Street America, and the big banks. And I want to point this out. I believe principled conservatives have been lied to and sold out by the ruling elite of the Republican Party, who are taking their money and their marching orders from the same damn corporations and Wall Street bankers and megalomaniacs. So we've got to actually build a movement of ordinary people that unites and fights to actually create a new system, a new political system, a new economic system, a new social system. And I will work with anybody of any political party to try to create that system. But I have come to the conclusion that as hard as it is to create an alternative political party, that it is actually going to be more successful and more leverageable to build a political party based on our core principles and values than to try to shoehorn peace, justice, democracy, and ecology into either of the two corporate political parties that have been bought and paid for by corporate money that is a cancer that is mastatized within that entire structure.
Absolutely. I couldn't agree with you more, David. And can I segue now to your A Green Way Forward, the podcast that you're doing? And I assume that you're addressing some of these. And tell us a little bit about that and how people can get involved with that.
Yes. And so I thank you so much for that invitation, and I really appreciate the cross-pollination and also the acknowledgement that if you're watching this right now, you're watching it because the Pentagon Peace Hub is a source of non-corporately filtered news, information, and analysis. It is a place where ordinary people have committed themselves to social change and are looking to interconnect and network with one another. I am honored to be one of the many voices on the Pentagon Peace Hub and look forward to working with this organization going forward. And if you, as a viewer, have been inspired by hearing this individual conversation on the Pentagon Peace Hub, I encourage you to go to the website, agreenwayforward.org or agreenwayforward.com and sign up. Because if you sign up, what you're signing up for is the ability to get audio and podcasts of a 30-minute program every week. It happens every Monday at 5 p.m. Pacific or 8 p.m. Eastern. And what we do is talk to individuals about the issues that are facing us today. For example, I'll have Cindy Sheehan on to talk about her call for a women's march on the Pentagon and spend 30 minutes with her talking about her frustration with the Women's March refusing to talk about war and empire. And that led her to call for a women's march on the Pentagon that will be happening in October of this year. By the way, we haven't had a march on the Pentagon since the Vietnam War era, so we're due. I talked to Bruce Dixon of the Black Agenda Report to talk about intersectionality and solidarity and how to build a class-based movement that understands that across race and gender, that the people who don't own the means of production are actually being exploited and that we have to actually work together in order to break free. I'll be talking to Eric Rydberg and Angelica Duenas, who are two big, long-time committed activists who experienced and were participatory in the Democratic Party, supporting Bernie Sanders, who have Dem exited and Green entered. Eric Rydberg is now running for Secretary of State in the state of California as a Green Party member. And Angelica Duenas is running for Congress in Los Angeles as a Green Party member. So the point I'm making, Noel, is every week we look at either an issue or an individual that may or may not be a member of the Green Party. Cindy is not a member of the Green Party, but the concept of the peace movement and helping to reinvigorate the peace movement, we look at that through the Green Party's perspective. So I don't make any bones about it. I'm a Green Party member, and what I'm trying to do is help to build a movement for peace, justice, democracy, and ecology. At the end of the day, I do believe that electoral politics, we need to engage elections with the same level of seriousness and authenticity that we do our social movement work. Because one thing that's been very frustrating to me is to work with social change agents 364 days a year in the trenches, in the streets, doing forums, doing protests, doing demonstrations. And then on election day, they say, okay, well, we have to put all of that aside and go vote for the least worst candidate. And my read is that voting for the least worst candidates has just made everything worse. That when you engage in lesser evilism, you just continue to perpetuate evil. And at the end of the day, I'm trying to persuade people at the local, state, and even national level to invest your vote in the movement that you say you want to be part of. And I believe that that movement is best represented at the ballot box by the Green Party.
Fabulous. You know, David, I'm just speechless here, as you might have noticed. Your ideas, the way you express it, what you're bringing, and, you know, the idea that, you know, voting for the least evil, it's kind of like Thelma and Louise coming to the cliff, and one just seems to go faster than the other, but
right.
Neither one of them are turning around. And so the Green Party can turn this around.
And that's like such a beautiful metaphor. And thanks to the Thelma and Louise movie to make me smile and remember those two strong, powerful women who were bucking the system too. But as you're approaching that cliff, I will acknowledge that the Republican Party is going faster towards that cliff than the Democratic Party is. So yes, there is a difference between Democrats and Republicans. And even though they're both corporately funded, one, in my estimation, is taking us over the cliff at a faster pace. But make no mistake about it, they are both headed in the same basic direction. And we've got to literally shift the entire direction, not only of our elections but our public policy and even our culture. We need to shift how we think about our relationship to each other, to Mother Earth herself, and we've got to begin to think and act differently. And that's what we try to explore and think about on A Green Way Forward.
Well, thank you so much. I know we've gone a little bit over, but I think it's worth every moment, every second. I've enjoyed it. Thank you so much. And as he said, you can contact David, sign up at his website, greenwayforward.org. I think I already have. If I haven't, I'll be doing that shortly. So thank you, David. And we'll see you back here because we'd like to talk to you more about some things that you're doing locally in your community. Thank you so much.
Peace.